allow me something personal here. Very active as well. Japan, always present, particularly when it comes to issues related to natural disaster, infrastructures, and making sure that people not only survive but can really escape from major disasters. So thank you very much to Japan. New Zealand has shown throughout the years its support to the issue of persons with disabilities. The Republic of Korea, no words. They are tremendous supporters of this issue. Thank you very much. And the Republic of San Marino. It's a little mountain apparently of 33,000 people, but they are so active, particularly when it comes to promoting a tourism that is accessible and inclusive of all persons, as well as the European Community and the NGO Committee on Aging. So we're gathered here today to highlight the crucial contributions made by persons with disabilities in promoting inclusive societies and, of course, development. We also recognize the long-standing partnership with the civil society organizations who do play important roles in addressing the needs and perspectives of persons with disabilities at the global, regional, and local level. So our societies must pursue disability inclusive policies to ensure that persons with disabilities participate in all spheres of societies on an equal basis with others. Dignity has no name. Dignity has no ability or disability. It's people. And the UN Charter says, we the people. That's what we're talking about today. People with different skills, different needs, and different abilities. Persons with disabilities with their unique experience and expertise can make important contributions to the design, development, and implementation of innovative solutions, and policy programs to advance the resilience of societies, especially in the context of humanitarian actions, disaster risk reduction, and accessible urban development. Resilience. Allow me again to add here something personal. It's resilience that enabled me, since I was 6 years old and became paraplegic, to make this through. It's resilience, the ability to look at challenges and make out the best of them. Behind the challenge, there is a tool to win. We have to find that tool. And those are the tools we want to identify today when it comes to the topic I just mentioned, the topic we want to be discussing throughout the day. Now please join me in welcoming my dear friend and moderator for the opening segment, Miroslav, who is the Secretary General of Rehabilitation International. Mr. Yegan, she is Mrs. Yegan. She's a global, not just Mr. She's a global known leader in the disability community. Her very, very extensive experience in disability rights, promotion, and advocacy, as well as policy programming, in humanitarian actions, and building up the resilience of societies at national, regional, and global level is unique. So, the floor is yours now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Paz, and thank you to all. My organization, Rehabilitation International, which has done work in disability and rehabilitation for 95 years since 1922, is very honored to participate in today's celebration of the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. We are a global organization of persons with disabilities, service providers, agencies of governments, academics, researchers, and advocates, working to improve the life of persons with disabilities. Central to the work that we do is the inclusion of persons with disabilities in humanitarian action, disaster risk reduction, and accessible urban development, as earlier referred to by Ms. Paz, among other things. We just had 2 weeks ago a regional meeting with disability leaders and others working in the field of disability and rehabilitation in Africa, held in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, to discuss possible collaboration for some future initiatives of RI for the Africa region. With that said, Rehabilitation International is looking forward to continue the work we have done over 9 decades and to play a proactive role as a member of civil society and to promote the rights and help achieve our shared goals for persons with disabilities across the world. Thank you for the opportunity to join you today. And now I will have to explain some of the things that we need to do this morning before we start with this. Okay. Yes. So we have 1 minute for accessible explanations from some of the representatives in the room today.
So thank you, sorry. I would like to ask maybe my colleagues in the JCM to spend 1 minute about the Accessible Center in the United Nations. I'm really sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Just a brief note to let you know that the Accessibility Center is located on this floor in room S1B32, and it's right next to the escalators if you want to stop by. If you have any questions regarding the services or the devices we provide, feel free to stop by. We'll be happy to answer any questions. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much. And now we will have to hear the speeches of our honorable guests this morning. But before we do that, we just want to inform everyone that we have set a maximum of 7 minutes for each of the speakers. Okay, so now ladies and gentlemen, my task as the moderator for today. And let me inform you that the Secretary General, His Excellency Mr. Antonio Guterres, is not able to join us for today's event due to his very tight schedule. The Secretary General's message on the International Day of Persons with Disabilities is available online, and copies are going to be made available at the back of the room. So without further ado, may I invite the President of the 72nd session of the General Assembly, His Excellency Mr. Miroslav. I hope I pronounced your name right, sir, to open the first segment of the opening and deliver his remarks for the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. Your Excellency, please.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues. Let me at the outset congratulate the organizers and sponsors of this event for bringing us together to celebrate this important occasion. The International Day of Persons with Disabilities was declared 25 years ago. And we can agree that as an international community, we have come a long way. We have made landmark achievements over this period. The most important being the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. That means full and effective participation and inclusion in society. And yet, on this International Day, we recognize that there is much more left to be done. We must continue to strive to leave no one behind. And this includes persons with disabilities. The 2030 Agenda calls for a people-centered approach to sustainable development. In this spirit, I have put a focus on people at the core of my presidency. And if I look around this room, it may appear that persons with disabilities are included and well represented. But outside these halls, the reality is quite different. Persons with disabilities are often disproportionately affected by poverty. They face discrimination and exclusion. Every day, they face challenges that affect their lives, that hamper their ability to contribute equally to the life of our societies. And this is not only a violation of their rights, it's a loss for our society and its diversity. This is why specific references in the targets of 2030 Agenda and other development frameworks are so important. We need to make the empowerment of persons with disabilities a priority at both the global and national level. Persons with disabilities must be included and participate in the crafting of development plans and policies. We must reflect their concerns and situations from start to finish ensuring that they are both accessible and enabling. Today's commemoration is therefore both timely and welcome. We at the United Nations have work to do. During the general debate, I was confronted with how ill-equipped the General Assembly Hall is for persons with disabilities. And this was further reinforced when I gave a tour to a young person from my country, Slovakia, in a wheelchair. When we got to the General Assembly podium, it was inaccessible to her. These two examples beg the question: are we excluding persons with disabilities from equal participation in the work and leadership of the General Assembly? The second point is that the United Nations must stand as a role model. When policies and agreements are being discussed, when decisions are being made, they must be inclusive and respect the interests and rights of persons with disabilities. And persons with disabilities must themselves participate in these and other discussions. It is a fact that there is progress in some areas. Physical access within the UN premises has improved. We are thankful for the Accessibility Center here in New York and those involved in its establishment in 2013. Work is also being done on publications, web pages, and digitalization of documents. In 2016, the Secretary General submitted the first report on the full realization of an inclusive and accessible United Nations for persons with disabilities. However, many of these measures have only been possible thanks to voluntary contributions. And there is still much more to do. Documentation can now be acquired in accessible formats, but we need to work towards having them in real time. Can we have better lighting and acoustics in the meeting rooms? How about sign language interpretation and closed captioning for official meetings? We should also examine our signage to ensure that they are well positioned for all users. These are kind of suggestions made by persons with disabilities, and they deserve our full consideration. The United Nations must represent everyone equally. I will be pushing towards making the
Excellencies, dear colleagues, distinguished guests, on today's important occasion, when we mark the International Day of Persons with Disabilities, I would like to encourage all of us to use this opportunity to reaffirm our strong commitment to the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. As President of the Conference of the States Parties to the CRPD, I am determined to further advance the human rights of persons with disabilities and to promote the full implementation of the Convention. The CRPD is the first international human rights convention of the 21st century, and in the 11 years since its adoption, the CRPD has also become one of the most quickly and widely ratified of all the international human rights treaties, with 175 states parties already, including one organization, the European Union. Our mission is to turn the firm commitments of states parties to promoting the rights of persons with disabilities into concrete actions and tangible results on the ground, ensuring that persons with disabilities enjoy all human rights and are included in society on an equal basis with others. To overcome the social barriers associated with disabilities and build sustainable and resilient societies for all, a transformative and inclusive approach is required that involves persons with disabilities as equal partners in all relevant processes at national and global levels. If we are to achieve inclusive and accessible societies and the realization of the human rights of all, we need to promote a human rights-based approach focused on supported rather than substituted decision-making by ensuring that persons with disabilities, through their representative organizations, participate and are included in decision-making processes that impact their lives. Over the years, the Conference of States Parties has become one of the largest and most important global forums on the rights of persons with disabilities, where the fruitful partnership with civil society and organizations of persons with disabilities is realized setting the standard for how the UN, member states, and persons with disabilities implement the core principles of the CRPD. The conference serves as a useful platform for states parties to share experience and best practices for the implementation of the Convention through various peer state strategies, which contribute also to increasing the number of ratifications along with other mechanisms, including the Universal Periodic Review of the Human Rights Council. I encourage these practices as invaluable to our shared goal of reaching universal ratification. With our 10th Conference of States Parties earlier this year, we started the second decade of the CRPD with the ambition to further strengthen the implementation of the Convention by involving more actively persons with disabilities and their representative organizations from the initial stages of preparation of the conference through formulating the topics to actively participating in the discussions at all levels, including as speakers and co-chairs of meetings. The roundtable discussions during this year's conference focused on some of the most pertinent issues for persons with disabilities related to the implementation of some of the major global agreements of those with disabilities and the ambition to build resilient societies where no one is left behind by promoting inclusive urban development and humanitarian action that takes into account the rights of the most vulnerable and marginalized in our societies. States parties reaffirm the importance of the inclusion and active participation of persons with disabilities and their representative organizations in the design, implementation, coordination, monitoring, and evaluation of all relevant policies and programs, including in the areas of humanitarian and emergency action, disaster preparedness and response, and urban development. As we are now entering the final and crucial stage of the elaboration of the two global compacts for migration and non-refugees, respectively, and considering the number of persons with disabilities among those on the move, particularly among those forcibly displaced by conflict and disaster, I find it imperative for us, states parties to the CRPD, and for the international community in general, to reaffirm its commitment to the rights of persons with disabilities in the process of negotiations and consultations toward the adoption of those global agreements of paramount importance. Thank you for your attention.
May I now invite His Excellency Mr. Finian Cheshire, Deputy Permanent Representative of New Zealand, who co-sponsored the resolution on women and girls with disabilities during the 72nd session of the General Assembly. Your Excellency, please.
Thank you very much, Vanessa. And can I start by thanking and acknowledging the President of the General Assembly for his statement just now and for his commitment to inclusiveness of persons with disabilities. We see it as a particularly welcome and strong step towards improving this organisation's approach to persons with disabilities. As Vanessa just mentioned, New Zealand, along with colleagues in Mexico and Sweden, present a biannual resolution on the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities to the General Assembly. And this year, for the first time, it was presented with a specific theme, that of the situation of women and girls with disabilities. We did so to acknowledge, and I believe in part this gets to the theme of today's event, that inclusiveness and a sustainable and resilient society for all cannot be achieved without specifically addressing the multiple and intersecting forms of discrimination that are faced by women and girls with disabilities. These multiple and intersecting forms limit the ability of women and girls with disabilities to enjoy human rights on an equal basis with others. The SDGs cannot be achieved without recognising and addressing these specific challenges, and these specific challenges cannot be addressed without including women and girls in the preparation of policies and responses to these challenges. It is our experience, and I believe the experience of many member states, that the situation of women and girls with disabilities is often not considered in the development of gender and disabilities policies and programs, which means their specific challenges remain unaddressed or ignored. For this reason, we welcome the changes proposed by the wtih towards inclusiveness in the discussions here for persons with disabilities. The resolution this year focuses on the core challenges facing women and girls with disabilities for the enjoyment of their rights on an equal basis with others, and it provides concrete actions that can be undertaken in this regard. Actively taking steps to improve the outcomes for women and girls in all areas of life must be a priority for us all. About removing barriers and actively involving women and girls through their representative organisations and the discussions so that their perspectives are incorporated in the development of any policies or practices. We have in New Zealand begun to make small steps towards this, but we recognise that, as for all member states, it is an ongoing process. And for that reason, we welcome this event, events like it, and the regular opportunity to discuss these issues as a community here at the United Nations. I should emphasise that accessibility as a precondition for the full and effective participation of persons with disabilities is not limited to access to the physical environment, but also includes the provision of information in accessible and alternative format. And this was addressed again in this morning's discussions already. One particular issue that I want to highlight as I end my short comments here is that the collection of disaggregated data is critical to ensuring that no one is left behind in the implementation of Agenda 2030. The collection of quality data is fundamental in developing evidence-based programs that can meaningfully address multiple and intersecting forms of discrimination. Without this, women and girls with disabilities risk being left behind or ignored. Thank you.
I now invite His Excellency Mr. Feridun Miroslav, Permanent Representative of Turkey, the organizer of the World Humanitarian in Istanbul, to make his statement. Sir, I hope I pronounced your name right. If not, apologies.
Thank you. Thank you, Excellencies, distinguished participants. I would like to join others in thanking the UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs for organizing today's event on the occasion of the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. I hope that today's discussions will yield a valuable opportunity for fruitful deliberations on the promotion and protection of the rights of people with disabilities. This year's theme, focusing on transformation towards sustainable and resilient society for all, is particularly relevant. Persons with disabilities, as both beneficiaries and agents of change, have an important role to play in achieving inclusive and sustainable development and promoting a resilient society for all. This is pertinent for various situations, including in the context of disaster risk reduction and humanitarian action, as well as urban development. Today, as I was asked to address the need to foster disability-inclusive humanitarian action, I will focus my remarks on this very crucial matter. Distinguished participants, unfortunately, the multiple crises and challenges we collectively face around the world today have resulted in dramatic levels of humanitarian need. Forced displacement remains at record levels, with more than 65 million people displaced due to human-made crises or natural disasters. Persons with disabilities are often disproportionately affected in situations of risk. These include armed conflicts, humanitarian emergencies, and the occurrence of natural disasters and their aftermath.
As persons with disabilities, we acknowledge as one of the many great outcomes of the World Humanitarian Summit held in your country is the Charter of Inclusion of Persons with Disabilities in Humanitarian Action, as you have just described. But we would also want to stress the fact that accessibility, humanitarian action, and urban infrastructure for all is for all, not only for persons with disabilities, but also for those people who acquire disabilities due to natural disasters and human causes. So So thank you so much, and we appreciate your statement. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite His Excellency Ambassador Mr. Diego Fernando Morejon Pazmino, Permanent Representative of Ecuador, organizer of the Habitat Team Conference in Quito, to deliver his statement.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to join to congratulate you and Desa and Daniela Vaz Desa for organizing this meeting with your colleagues. Thank you for being here. I would like to recognize too the presence of Ambassador Luis Gallegos. He is the former permanent representative of Ecuador. He's a special person who's dealing with the convention as a frame, as a concept, and in the action. So I'm very glad to see my colleague and friend here in this meeting. Dear friend and colleagues on the table, I would like to join the statement from Mr. Lakchak, PGA, on telling the difficulties that we have here at the United Nations in the frame of accessibility. We experienced that, of course, as a country, with our president who came to the General Assembly this year. He's a disabled person himself, so we dealt with DGACM and other bodies here at the UN in order to have him here comfortable and to treat him well, as it should be. Another thing that I joined is that we have to make it very visible. This convention must be in the best higher level. We should have this meeting in the General Assembly in a G193 basis. We have to go along with that to reach this thing. It's a global problem. Since 1992, the International Day of Persons with Disabilities is marked annually around the world on December the 3rd to promote awareness and mobilize support for critical issues pertaining to the inclusion of persons with disabilities in society and development. The joint effort of the international community in the promotion and protection of their rights has proven fruitful, and several landmarks have been reached since then. This year, we have again the opportunity to take stock and analyze how our commitments as member states, international community, civil society, and partners have been implemented towards the improvement of the quality of the life of 1 billion people with disabilities around the world. And for
Our marginalization, we hope that the commitment of the international community to advance accessibility and mainstream disability in development, which are among the commitments made during Habitat 3, which was sponsored by our country, will finally enable persons with disabilities to live better quality lives and for us to be able to enjoy our rights on equal basis with others. Thank you very much, sir. Now I wish to invite His Excellency Ambassador Mr. Toshiya Hishino, Deputy Permanent Representative of Japan, organizer of the 3rd UN World Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction in Sendai, to deliver his statement.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Ms. Venus Yegan, and ladies and gentlemen. It is my great honor to deliver this opening statement as a co-sponsor of this event commemorating the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. I wish to extend my appreciation to my fellow co-sponsors, the Department of Economic and Social Affairs, and all involved in the dedicated efforts to prepare this event. Today, we take up this very important subject of transformation towards sustainable and resilient society for all. And the resilience is required the most in time of disaster and crisis. And every year, 200 million people suffer and more than $100 billion are lost due to natural disasters. And we should realize that persons with disabilities face particular challenges in disaster situations. Multiple barriers exist for them to access necessary assistance. It is reported that the Great East Japan earthquake and tsunami in March 2011, the fatality rate of persons with disabilities was almost twice as high as the overall rate of affected residents. Based on lessons learned from this tragedy and assuring the safety of persons with disabilities in disaster situations, this is a matter of utmost importance. This year, the world has suffered from numerous natural disasters, including hurricanes, large-scale landslides, and earthquakes. Convening this event and discussing disability inclusive disaster risk reduction is very timely. The government of Japan has prioritized the protection and promotion of the rights of the people, persons with disabilities in situations of risk and humanitarian emergencies.
Accessible and inclusive environment not evident in previous similar initiatives. This means a lot for millions of persons with disabilities who are most vulnerable and often disproportionately affected in times of disasters, emergencies, and conflict situations. We thank your country's consistent support for disability and persons with disabilities. Now, may I invite His Excellency Ambassador Mr. Park Chul-ju, Deputy Permanent Representative of the Republic of Korea, to deliver his statement.
Madam Moderator, for offering me a floor. Excellencies, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to thank UNDESA for organizing this event. It's my pleasure and honor to take part in this annual celebration of the International Day of Persons with Disabilities, which is a very meaningful opportunity to renew our commitment toward sustainable and resilient society for all. Considering the series of international milestones on the issue of disabilities in recent years, renewing our commitment is all the more important. In addition to our foundational blueprints, including the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities and the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, we now have specific references to disability in Sendai Framework for disaster risk reduction and new urban agenda. Many countries, including the Republic of Korea and the relevant humanitarian agencies, have also endorsed the Charter on Inclusion of Persons with Disability in Humanitarian Action launched in May 2016 in Istanbul. These recent developments have further elevated disability as an essential component in addressing disaster risk reduction, urban development, and humanitarian action. As such, focus should now be placed on how to transform our commitment into concrete realities. In this regard, I hope today's panel discussion will provide us with timely input and suggestions to realize inclusive society and development. The Republic of Korea, for its part, will continue its contribution to promoting and protecting the rights of persons with disability around the world. Given the estimate that 80% of the world's persons with disabilities are living in developing countries, there is a clear linkage between development and disability. In accordance with its Framework Act on International Development Cooperation, Korea will contribute to create and implement its development programs that
Generous contribution to establish the Accessible Center or Accessibility Center here in the United Nations. They also sponsored the resolution on making the UN premises accessible, as has been mentioned. And in a more recent resolution supported on sports, they supported the inclusion of Paralympics for persons with disabilities. Thank you very much indeed. And last but not least, may I now request Ms. Penny Hartin, Chief Executive Officer of the World Blind Union, as representative of civil society organizations, to deliver her statement. Ms. Hartin, please.
I want to have it. Just a minute.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is truly an honor for me to address you this morning at these opening ceremonies to commemorate the International Day for Persons with Disabilities. While I am here representing the World Blind Union, I also note that WBU is a founding core member of the International Disability Alliance, and we strongly believe in the importance of working together with other disabled persons organizations to achieve more inclusive, sustainable, and resilient societies. Indeed, it is through partnership and collaboration that we have achieved so much over the past years. Working together, we achieved the UN CRPD and disability inclusion in such global development agendas as the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, the New Urban Agenda, and the Sendai Framework on Disaster Risk Reduction. Moreover, our success in advocating for the adoption of the Marrakesh Treaty to facilitate access to published works for persons who are blind, visually impaired, or otherwise print disabled illustrates how collaboration and advocacy for a common cause can result in international policy that can make a tangible difference for hundreds of millions of people with print disabilities. While these international instruments are important and helpful in confirming the imperative for inclusion of persons with disabilities in all aspects of society, they can only truly make a difference if they are fully embraced at the international, regional, national, and community levels through strong implementation and monitoring processes. The Marrakesh Treaty, for example, has now been ratified by 33 countries, which is very encouraging, and I want them all next year. However, unless the treaty is implemented through national copyright legislation that reflects its spirit, it will miss the opportunity to actually make books accessible and available for people who are blind and disabled. Similarly, if implementation and monitoring strategies for the SDGs do not include data disaggregation by disability as part of those strategies, then we will not be able to measure the impact that their implementation is having on the lives of people with disabilities.
I would like now to thank you, the President of the General Assembly, who left all the excellencies that have been with us and hopefully will keep being with us throughout the day, and of course the World Blind Union. And thank you very much, Miss Yegan. It was extraordinary to have you here as usual. We can feel the vibes in the room. So thank you very much for celebrating with us International Day of Persons with Disabilities in the year 2017. By the way, I'm Daniela Bass, and I'm the Director of the Division for Social Policy and Development in the Department of Economic and Social Affairs. And the division, on behalf of the department, houses the focal points for the whole United Nations system on youth, aging, indigenous peoples, family, and persons with disabilities. So I'm very proud to be here and very honored somehow to contribute to the day. I would like just to mention this before we have the pleasure of benefiting of some entertainment. As it has been already announced, I would like to inform you that throughout the day, the afternoon, we will keep talking about resilience, and we are going to talk about building the future societies, the societies we want. There will be a dialogue between the private and the public sector, and the second part of the afternoon will be discussing about the role of tourism. It's a major industry, and how tourism can contribute actually through infrastructures, etc., to make sure that the cities where tourism takes place and the urban areas where tourism takes place are well structured and organized to welcome everybody, and by contributing to have good infrastructures and much more than that, you will see what's going to happen over here, what's going to happen in the afternoon. We make sure that the societies can be also resilient in case of natural disasters and much more than that. So you're most welcome to be part of the other events we have planned throughout the day. I would like to invite you to join us now and watch a short video which is entitled "A Missing Link: Transporting Children with Disabilities to School." I went through that 50 years ago, so I'm very, very interested to see what they're showing here and if it somehow relates to my personal experience as well. But besides that, what matters is that this has been prepared by Access Exchange International. And and is produced by the Broadcast and Electronic Communication Arts Department of San Francisco State University. And this is a gift to the cause of enabling children with the disabilities to get to school in developing countries. Thanks again to all the panelists, and now let's watch this 5 minutes video.
Llevar a una persona con discapacidad, subir al transporte es muy difícil.
Sí, hay muchos niños aquí en la comunidad que les hace falta ir a la escuela, pero no los llevo porque no tienen con qué pagar para el transporte ir a la escuela.
Sería bueno que hubiera un transporte especialmente para las personas con discapacidad, para que fuese un poco más fácil su trayecto. Me dan el resultado cuando él tiene 20 días de nacido. Me dicen que tiene artrogriposis múltiple congénita.
Mi hijo se llama Roque Mateo Hernández. Está difícil porque ahorita yo le doy gracias a Dios que mi hijo ya camina, ya todo. Fue de repente cuando él cayó ya no se pudo mover, ya no se paraba, yo ya la llevo.
To the stage. Their musical performance will be followed by a speech from Mr. Bai Bonju. The performers were invited by the Permanent Mission of the Republic of Korea, and they are the Special Olympics Korea Ensemble, which consists, as I said, of 4 artists with the developmental disabilities, as already mentioned by the deputy earlier on. There is the flutist. My gosh, they really want to try me with these names that I'm so sorry, I'm not going to pronounce nicely. So the flutist is Kang Song Kang. The cellist is Park Sejun. The clarinetist is Yo Seong Jo. Somebody has to tell me, I'm so sorry. And the tenor is, which we already had the pleasure of hearing earlier on at the beginning of this, of the opening of this day, is Yo Young Jun. So please join me in welcoming them with a warm applause. They are going to perform two pieces, a performance by flute, cello, clarinet trio, divertimento in B flat major Mozart, and then the performance by the tenor, Tanis Angelicus. Thank you.